So we all experienced Azure, and we know like what are the services that Azure offers. So this week we're starting the AI materials. Uh, we have until the, I guess, 21st of February to complete all the Azure materials with the certifications according to the plan that I have in here. So we're starting this week. So we have 4 weeks to complete the Azure, which I believe are 8 sessions. And the last week will be preparing for the certificates and explaining more about the details regarding them. All right, so what we'll be covering today is the Azure fundamentals. We'll work on the Azure workloads and machine learning fundamentals. Next week, we'll be working on the computer vision, and we'll be working after that, well, basically computer vision, natural language processing. We'll be working on supervised machine learning, and then that would be covering everything for the AI materials. So the first module that we have for the AI is an introduction to the artificial intelligence. What we'll be learning today is the artificial intelligence in Azure, what artificial intelligence is, uh, and the common artificial intelligence workloads, and the AI in Microsoft Azure. Also, we'll be discussing the responsible AI, and we'll see the challenges, risks with AI, and we'll be discussing some examples in there. And then the principle of responsible AI. So starting with Azure, what is Azure, or what is artificial intelligence in general? Do you guys have any background or anything you might understand about Azure, or about AI basically in general? Have you heard of the term? Do you know what the definition of AI? Well, AI, or artificial intelligence, is a collection or a set of many different technologies working together to enable machines to sense, comprehend, act, and learn with a human-like level of intelligence. Maybe that's why it seems as like everyone has different definition of the AI. However, there's no, the AI in general is not just one thing. So technologies like machine learning, language processing are all part of AI landscape. Each one is evolving along its own path, and when applied in combination with data analytics and automation, can help businesses to achieve their goals. And improving the customer services or optimizing the supply chain. There is two, um, well, let's go farther a little bit in terms of the AI. So there is we have something called the narrow AI. I'll just give you guys a general or an overview of that. So some go even farther to define the artificial intelligence as a narrow and general AI. Most of what we experience in our day-to-day lives is a narrow AI. Things that you see like the weather applications, the digital assistants like Google Home, for example. I have the other one from Amazon, but I'm not going to say, so it will reply to me now. Anyway, softwares like that analyze data to optimize a given business functions. So these systems are powerful, but the playing field is narrow. They tend to be focused on driving efficiencies, but with the right application, and narrow AI has amazed transformational power, and it continues to influence how we work with our lives and live on a global scale, basically. We have the general AI is more like the what you can see um, in films, basically, uh, where sen- sentient machines emulate human intelligence, thinking strategically, abstractly, and creatively, with the ability to hand a range of complex tasks, while machines can perform some tasks better than human, for example, data processing. So this fully realize a vision of general AI does not yet exist outside the silver screen. Um, so that's why the human machine collaboration is um, in our it's very important in our day in today's world. Artificial intelligence remain an extension of human capabilities and replacement. So Microsoft defined AI as um, well a AI is a set of software that limits human behaviors and capabilities. Um, some examples that we may say is making decisions based on data and past experience, recognizing abnormal events, interpreting visual inputs, understanding written and spoken languages, engaging in dialogues and conversations. So, for example, uh, I'd say, like, for example, the image processing, like now with the new Apple um, uh, updates and like technologies that they just place on their softwares or operating systems for the phones, you can basically copy text from the picture itself. I don't know if any of you experienced that, but me personally, I experienced that. So I can take a picture of any paper that contain text, and I can basically just copy the text from there directly. I don't need to go and rewrite everything on that manually. So I can just highlight that text from the picture and then copy it to anywhere. So this is one of the things that artificial intelligence do. Uh, there are many areas or workloads that artificial intelligence available in artificial intelligence, or um, one of them is the machine learning, where one of them is machine learning. So it's based on the mostly used for predictive models based on data and statistics, and it is the foundation of AI. Anomaly detection, it's a system that detects unusual patterns or events, enabling to preemptive actions. Computer vision, which will be experience that later. Um, it's application that interrupt visual inputs from cameras, images, or video. The same example I gave you. Natural language processing, it's application that interrupt written or spoken languages. And then conversational AI, AI agents or bots that can engage in dialogue with human users. Can anyone give me like any example so far of, based on what you understand from what I just explained? Can you give me an example of applications that we actually use day to day in our lives?
Tesla driving car.
Self-driving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah. Absolutely. So basically, for example, imagine a conversational AI solution that uses a bot to process an auto insurance claim. The bot relies on some nat-
Alexa,
it will reply mine. Literally, I have the device next to the laptop, so so basically, yeah, I was saying like imagine a conversational AI solution that uses a bot to process an insurance claim. So the bot relies on some natural language processing capabilities to make sense of inputs such as I want to submit a claim, for example. It may allow user to send a photograph of the damaged vehicle, use computer vision to assess the damage and apply machine learning models to predict likely the repair cost. So the bot might also use anomaly detection or identify potential fraudulent claims. So these are one of the examples that might be used to do that. So some of you definitely experience that. Let's say if you're calling Virgin Media, for example, they tell you what you to, what's the reason for your call, and you just say like, for example, I want to um, 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 I want to understand more about my bills or anything. So it will direct you to the right departments based on what you basically say. So that's a machine you're talking to. It's not a human that will direct you manually to the right place. So this is one of the examples that AI might use. And the self-driving cars, we all know Tesla, for example, and how you can just put it on self-drive and it will drive you around. Um, uh, there are so many things that the artificial intelligence applied on, so many applications that you can basically keep counting or keep experiencing, or some of them we experience them day to day. Okay, is it clear so far? I'll take that as a yes. So artificial intelligence in Microsoft Azure. Uh, why we using Microsoft Azure? Uh, it's a scalable, reliable cloud platform for AI in terms of data storage, computing, and services. The services that we offer, we experience some of these services. We explained about these services before, um, and I believe we came across some of them. There are some services that the Microsoft Azure provides. Uh, the key services, Azure services that we'll experience in this course are the Azure Machine Learning, con, conjunctive services, and Azure Bot services. Okay, so the Azure Machine Learning, it's a platform for training, deploying, managing machine learning models. Congestive, conjunctive services, a suite of services developers can use to build AI solutions, and Azure Bot Services, it's a cloud-based platform for developing and managing bots. Okay, we'll discuss, we'll experience those in details, more in details, basically in this course, and we'll have some labs today, which will be working on towards the getting the knowledge and the information that we need there. So the lesson two for this slides or for this session is the responsible AI. There are some challenges and risks of using with the AI basically. Some of them are listed in here with some examples. Uh, the rest, like, you can I discover more basically by just doing some research in there. For example, the first one, we have the bias can affect results. For example, a loan approval model discriminates by gender due to bias in the data with which it was trained. Errors may cause harm. For example, an autonomous vehicle experience a system failure, and that may cause a collision. Data cloud be exposed. What these one of the risks. A medical diagnostic bot is trained using sensitive patient's data, which is stored in securely, and then solutions may not work for everyone. A predictive application provides no audio output for visual impaired users. And then users must trust a complex system, and these are one of the challenges as well. So an AI-based financial tool makes investments recommendation. What are they based on? So these are one of the challenges. So uh, who's liable for AI-driven decisions? An innocent person is convicted of a crime based on evidence from facial recognition. Who's responsible for that? These are the risks and challenges. Can you think of um, any additional examples? For example, I don't know. Any additional examples might come to mind of the risks or challenges?
I have a good story, I think, not an example.
Feel free to share it.
Um, there, there was an AI that was learning in the small quartz claim. I think that's what it was called. And then based on the data and the one, like, you know, the development of the AI, it became apparent that the judge would approve more claims after lunch, because before lunch he was like, whatever judges were there, they were actually quite tired and hungry, and therefore they were less likely to approve any small claims. And yeah, don't know if that's example, but it's a funny story.
Thank you for the example. Yeah, I don't know if you heard about the Facebook AI. I think I've discussed that with Anastasia before. Um, um, Let me just. So basically, a few years ago, I think that was in 2017. So Facebook artificial intelligence robot shut down after they start talking to each other in their own languages. So it was hard for Facebook to understand what was happening in there. So what happened is that Facebook had to shut down the whole system because of that. Um, it started taking over the whole system, and I think I can share the link with you. Yeah, so here is the link. You can read about it. It's a very interesting story. I like shows you what you can do with AI basically. So uh, um, that was one of the challenges of the AI. What if the machines start to take over everything, right? It will be dangerous on the system. I can't have control or anything. Um, those are one of the things that might be a challenge or risk of using, or like risk of the AI applications. But that doesn't mean that everything we do with AI can have risk, right? Me personally, I've done a temperature prediction for the temperature based on the AI algorithm. I think I can show you some of my details, some of the works I've done. So, and also the other one I did was the water quality prediction. So predicting um, the quality of water over time, or based on previous data. So these are one of the things I personally worked on. Uh, well, I was competing in NASA Space App hackathon last year, and well, thankfully I won. Uh, so yeah, so I have a set of data in there. Okay, so this is a part of my data. For example, tells me from 1880 how was the weather in January, February, and so on over time. Okay, so that takes the average of the temperature, and then based on that, start doing some machine learning algorithm, applying some machine learning algorithm to see the changes that's happening over the time. So from the 1880 till 2021, by then you see that it's keep going up, which what we if we having a crisis in the climate change, for example, right? So, and this is another way of with cleaning the noise of that signal. Uh, so yeah, like you see that from there and where it's going to be in 2121. So that like in 100 years later, we see over the month how it's going. So all these predictions basically based on the previous data. So I have data up to here, which is 21, or when I did this one. So and then it shows me that from here till 100 years later, it will reach like it will increase by like 100%, for example. So these things, this data, these kind of things, it will help me to predict or make decisions what I need to do. Okay. I have some of my colleagues as well here at PCU who's doing research on predicting the brain cancer based on images. Um, so this is one of the stuff that's happening in the medical sector. Another one is on the injuries, I think, on the working on the breast cancer, for example. So all these things that we have today is all based on machine learning, artificial intelligence, all these deep learning modules. These all are examples of what we have. One of the challenges that my friend is having, well, yeah, he's still having that, is the accessing the data, basically, because how it works is you have to train the model first, build the model and train the machine that you have. This is set of data that we do, and based on that, start predicting, okay, or make decisions. So if he doesn't have access to so many images, I think he has access to 400 images only. And that can be one of the challenges of like the training the module that you have based on the data, because the more data that you have to train the model on, sorry, the more accuracy you will get in there, right? So these are one of some of the challenges you may, or the risks of using the AI. We discussed about the Facebook one. We discussed about some other modules that's happening. Um, so the principle of the responsible AI.
I'm sorry, I have a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so the example you just have shown, the work you have just shown, it was like a you built a model on some programming language based on the historical data, and
Yes,
then it give you the predictions.
yes,
And you are saying that how long the data or the historical data would be, and then you put the model, and so the model, I'm sorry if it's advanced question or if it's a stupid question, that the model you make is something that you are creating by yourself.
yeah. So I do use, well, I do have a data set. It's not
Yeah,
very large data set. Okay, you see like the entries per year. It's
yeah,
from so it could be like 400 rows or 200 rows, something like this. So it's not a
okay,
huge data set. I made some prediction based on previous data. So I did create some machine learning algorithm. Okay,
okay,
using some existing ones, uh,
okay,
and apply it on my data set to see how it perform, and then I can get the accuracy somewhere.
So how do you know that this is could be accuracy? Because you know you are like manipulating the existing algorithm to make the new one to have some model.
Yeah, so exactly. So the accuracy. So at the end, there is some techniques that would be used to calculate the accuracy of your model.
Okay.
And based on that, you can predict that. Um, so basically, what happened is you split your data. One of the
Hmm.
techniques is splitting your data into like 60% is for training and 40% for testing. So
Okay.
that testing part will predict the accuracy of your data, right?
Okay.
So these are one of the techniques in terms of how can I make sure that this is accurate. Uh,
Okay.
Based on that, you can basically predict the accuracy of it, or like is it actually useful? Is it correct? What the results are? Uh,
Okay.
in terms of the also another example I've done is the image processing as well. So I've done that like 2 years ago. I
Hmm.
used something called federated learning. Okay, so that federated learning, what it does, and I was discussing that with Anastasia and Nazila the other day, is that basically instead of sharing the data with the server and then do processing and then get back with the results, what it does is sends the model to your device, and based on that, it will do the processing and send only the results. So I have the global model, whatever it is, it's image processing in my case in here, and I
Hmm.
have the server. The server will distribute the model, and the server will aggregate the weights of those models or the results only, basically. So there's so many techniques that can be used inside or for the image processing, right?
Hmm.
So what I have in here, one of the techniques that I used personally is taking a picture of the sky. Okay, the picture has to contain 60% of the sky, like this one here, and then it will be divided into so many layers. Like image, it will be divided at the end into 255 pictures or layers. Okay, so for one picture will be 255. So that then it will calculate the accurate. It will calculate, do basically the processing of the model there, and give me the prediction. So in my case, based on the data that I have, okay, the accuracy of my model, it went up from 0 to 99% in there. Okay, so
So
that,
I'm sorry. So it break the one picture into the multiple copies, or what
no,
is the breakdown of it?
it splits it splits the image into multiple images. So it takes every corner of the image that
Okay. Okay.
it splits it into different parts. Okay.
All right. This is what you have done in the another data that you said that you have to divide the data into the small parts. In the small,
Yes.
yeah.
It
Okay.
split it into small parts, and then
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm trying to find a picture for you that explains that. So yeah, I think this one. So you see in this one how the image being
Yeah.
split it into multiple images. It's
Yes.
exactly like this. So I can split it into multiple images like this, and then every small image will be split it into different ones as well. So and then basically it calculates these bits and to come up with the results in there.
Okay.
So uh, now the principle of the responsible AI, we have the fairness AI systems. Well, what it means is that AI systems should treat all people fairly. For example, suppose you carry uh, you create a machine learning model to support a loan approval application for a bank. So the model should make a prediction of whether or not the loan is whether or whether or not the loan should be approved without incorporating any bias based on gender, ethnicity, or other factors that may result an unfair advantage or disadvantage to a specific group of applications. Uh, machine learning Machine learning includes the capability to interrupt, interpret models and quantify the extent to which each feature of data influence the module's prediction. The capability helps data scientists and developers identify and mitigate bias in the model. The other principle is the reliability and safety. AI should perform reliable and safely, reliably, and safely. For example, consider an AI based software system for an autonomous vehicles, or a machine learning model that diagnoses patient symptoms and recommend prescriptions. Unreliability is in these kinds of systems can result in substantial risks to human life. AI-based software applications developments must be subjected to for testing and development management process to ensure subjected to testing and development management process to ensure that they work as expected before release. Okay. The third principle that we have is AI privacy and security. So AI systems should be secure and respect privacy. The machine learning models on which AI systems are based rely on large volumes of data, which may contain personal details that must be kept private. Even after the model are trained and systems is in production, it uses new data to make prediction or take action that may be subject to privacy or security concern. Okay, so it's the same thing. One of the methods that can be used for the privacy is the one called federated learning that I talked about. Federated learning. It hasn't been for so long now. It's kind of new, to be honest. So these are one of the techniques that can be used for the privacy of the data. Okay. Inclusiveness, AI. It's another principle of the responsible AI. So AI systems should empower everyone and engage people. So AI should uh, bring benefits to all parts of society, regardless of the physical ability, gender, sexuality, orientation, ethnicity, or other factors. And then we have transparency. So AI should be understandable, and users should be made fully aware of the purpose of the system, how it works, and what limitations you may be expected. And then we have finally accountability, is that people should be accountable for AI systems. Designers and developers of AI-based solution should work within a framework of governance and organizational principle that ensure the solution meets ethical and legal standards that are clearly defined. Okay, so that's everything we have for the first session of the AI. Okay, so what we have in here, we have a lab for you, and I'll give you 15 minutes to complete this one. So you will go to this link that I'll paste it on the chat in there. Oh, I'm doing here. So I just pasted I just pasted that on the chat in here. You just need to complete. I've just seen questions in terms asking Hannah asking me if in the programming language stuff. Yes, I did write it myself. Well, I did use some libraries and stuff, of course, that exist in Python, which you will guys experienced in the data part of this bootcamp. And if I stop sharing, shall I keep sharing? Oh. Okay, so this. So yeah, I did write it myself. I've been working with the AI algorithms and stuff like this. I don't know for ages now. So I think after a while you get used to write stuff algorithms. Like even with Azure, it makes it easier for you because you don't need to write that large amount of coding or something. I'll be giving you all the codes that are required for the lab, so don't worry about that. Okay, so that's in terms of the first session for the AI. Is it okay? Is it hard? Any comments, any questions so far?
I opened the link and it says Hex Design Library. Is that correct link I'm on?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically what you need to do, Hex Design Library, you need to pick up a card from there and then identify the responsible AI principles that the examples represents.
God, where is the card actually? Don't get me wrong on it.
And also, guys, I think you've experienced that before. You know, sometimes when you're searching on something online, right? And then you open your social media and you see a bunch of advertisements for that products that you're searching. I'm pretty sure everyone experienced that before. So this is one of the AI stuff that's being used for marketing. It increased the sales, improve the market. Okay, so let's take 10-15 minutes for this one, and then we'll carry on. Yes, you can select any cards from there, and then identify the responsible AI principles in there.
Mohammed, just a
Yes.
question. When you talk about the cards, are you talking about the one which are with the blue ones, the G1, G1A, G1B? Is that the one you're talking about, the cards?
I think so. I think this is kind of cards. So yeah.
Can I share my screen with you if you don't mind, please? If you can just guide me.
Is it this one that you're talking about?
Uh,
You can select any of those modules in there
okay.
and identify the.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
So they have some details in there. Okay, there it is.
I'm sorry, can you please show me one time more the slide of the principles?
Yeah, sure. The slides principles. Yeah. How are we going on? Getting on, guys? We do have sets of labs to work on Azure today as well. So we'll experience few tools in there. So, how are we, guys, with the lab, small lab, I guess. It's just for you to understand the principles of responsible AI. Are we all good so far? I'll consider the silent as a yes. All right, so what we covered today is the artificial intelligence in Azure. What is artificial intelligence? The common artificial intelligence workloads, the artificial intelligence in Microsoft Azure, and responsible AI, the challenges and risks of with AI, the principles of responsible AI. Hopefully, it wasn't a hard session or hard part of the session, I guess, for you. Is it clear everything in terms of what we covered today, or do you have any questions? You can write in the chat or you can speak about it. So, let's explain further on Microsoft Learn in terms of the artificial intelligence on Azure. You can just follow this link for that. Okay. It will bring up a page like this to you. So from here, you can explore further on the Microsoft Azure on artificial intelligence on Azure. basic to understand machine learning, understand anomaly detection, computer vision, NLP, conversational AI, challenges and risks, and then check knowledge. So this is what we covered today. Okay, you can just hit start and it will go through them one by one if you want to discover more or explore more in there. So that's in terms of uh, the slides so far for the first session. So we have a bunch of playbooks in here that these are labs to be completed basically by you guys. Uh, we have on Azure machine learning experiments, components that needed in there, like the Azure subscription, the resource group, of course, the procedure, pseudocode setup. And if you don't know what pseudocode is, I'll explain to you in a bit. So we have all the steps. We have screenshots of all the steps that you need to complete in there for all the labs, basically, like how we usually do for the labs. Okay, if you remember the last lab, how we did it is exactly the same. So it's all the steps one by one in there to complete. So in this case, you will be able to understand more on in terms of the Azure um, um, well, AI on Azure, basically. Yes, sir. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do the subscription of the Azure in like in December, so it is expired now, and they are asking me to buy it. As I do not get the still the BCU email address, I couldn't use my private one now. I need to buy that for using the subscription for that labs.
Okay. Give me a second. I think I might have a way for you guys to
Okay.
get more from Azure.
Okay. Thanks.
Um, okay, I'll stop the recording.